Live from New York, it's the show that is celebrating National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. It's first things first. Okay, he's got a Hall of Fame resume here, Bruce. 7th in wins. Only Peyton has more MVPs. He's got 60,000 passing yards and should get to 500 touchdowns. Only Mahomes has a higher passer rating. He's second all time. And if he added a championship, another championship to this resume, what would that do for his legacy?
It would work wonders. I mean, obviously, as you said, his legacy is already top notch, but everything in New York is magnified. And I think he knows that. Like Eli Manning went to 4 Pro Bowls. 4. That's it. And he
Rodgers
likely
has that many MVPs.
Right. Eli will likely be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
There's a little
maybe
debate.
Maybe not first ballot, but
because he won 2 Super Bowls in New York. Our friend, Isaiah Thomas, right? Some people regard him as like the worst GM ever. He wasn't. His draft record was actually great with the Knicks, but obviously overall it didn't work out with New York. So he gets blasted because everything is magnified for good or bad. So if Rodgers leads a Jets team, it's not the Giants even, the Jets, who haven't won since 1969, to a Super Bowl, it would almost be like winning 2. It wouldn't, obviously, but it would almost give him that type of cachet. So, Nick, I think, and look, obviously these are subjective.
Yeah.
I was looking at Marty Morningwig, who, longtime OC, offensive coordinator in the league. His top 10 quarterbacks, Rodgers wasn't on it. Brett Favre was. The NFL official, they did the top 100 team. They had 10 quarterbacks. It was back in 2019. But still, Rodgers wasn't on it. He had done enough by then. I think to be on it.
I didn't know
Favre
he
was on it, and Favre was on it.
Okay.
I've long thought Rodgers was better than Favre. And so I think if he won this Super Bowl for the Jets, he moves into the top 5 as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And my top 5 would be this. Brady 1, Montana 2, Mahomes 3, Peyton Manning 4, and Aaron Rodgers 5. Nick, the only knock on Rodgers has been that he hasn't won big. He's won. His regular season record is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Obviously the 4 MVPs, but hasn't won big or even been to but one Super Bowl. So this would be huge.
Well, so he's already, in my opinion, I think statistically it backs it up, one of the 3 best regular season quarterbacks of all time. Rodgers, Manning, and Mahomes are the best regular season quarterbacks. I know it's weird. Brady, I'm not slighting Brady there at all, but Brady would be right there on the next with Marino. But Brady's greatness is defined by the fact that nobody else has more than 16 playoff victories, and he has 35 playoff victories.
And he's only been 3 times All-Pro.
Well, that's a tough one, though, for quarterbacks because first-team All-Pro, there's only one, and it's basically, did you win league MVP? You were the first-team All-Pro. So the All-Pro thing is tougher for quarterbacks than really any other position because there's multiple first-team All-Pro receivers, other stuff. But so Rodgers' problem is since the Super Bowl, he is 7-9 in the playoffs. Since the Super Bowl, he has one really memorable, positive playoff game moment. Dak's rookie year against the 13-3 Cowboys, the throw down the sideline and then beating that Cowboys team, that back and forth. But then 6 days later, or 7 days later, they got blasted by Atlanta. Since the Super Bowl, we have seen him be 15-1 and get annihilated by the Giants. We have seen him lose a conference championship game where they were up 12 near the 2-minute warning. Now that one, again, hard to put the end of that game on him because it went Seahawks touchdown, onside kick, Seahawks touchdown. He doesn't touch the ball, but he wasn't great in that game. Since then, we have seen him have what could have been an all-time playoff moment, the 2 Hail Mary game against the Cardinals, but they lost that game in overtime. And we obviously saw him lose to Tom Brady, who all of a sudden came over to the NFC and within a season won as many NFC title games as Rodgers has in an entire career. So the only thing that I would disagree with you on is I don't think he necessarily has to be brilliant. Let me put this the way I mean to. Realistically, for the Jets to win, he's going to have to be great. If they were to win a Super Bowl and he were to just be okay, I still think it does for him something similar that Peyton's Super Bowl with the Broncos when he was not even okay that year. He was bad that year. But now you look at Peyton and you're like, Well, he has 2 Super Bowls. He has all this regular season success. And so, I have a similar list as you. I did I prefer pyramids and tiers and things like that rather than just standard lists. But that's right now, Rodgers is in that 6 to 10 range. We have, I'm a Manning over Montana guy. I understand the rings don't back that up. Manning, to me, is as technically sound of quarterback as I've ever seen. And to me, Mahomes is right there with them. But that top 4 is pretty established. Would Rodgers get a real strong argument against Elway with another ring? Yeah. Absolutely. Would he, I think, universally pass Marino with another ring? Some people argue, like you were saying, Favre. I've heard some people argue Breeze. I think he would end those discussions permanently with another ring. So that's what is on the line for him.
What I will say, to add to your point, because some people might say, oh, does he pass Manning? They would both have 2. And let's say he played just well.
Yeah.
That would be better than Manning did in his last Super Bowl. But Peyton Manning revolutionized the game. I mean, at calling the game at the line of scrimmage, now they're doing that in high school. All right, so he changed all that. So I got to give him, put him ahead of Rodgers.
If I may respond to that just quickly.
Rodgers have to win 2 for me to
also, Peyton's prime, trying to get to the Super Bowl, was in the AFC with multiple other Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Right. Not just Brady, because it's not like Brady beat him every year. Right. And he actually beat Brady a couple times, once in Indy and once in Denver in the playoffs. But you had to get through Big Ben and Brady and then the lower tier Phillip Rivers. The NFC, we talk about the quarterback discrepancy right now in the AFC versus NFC. For the most of the last decade, the lion's share of Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks have been in the AFC. Yep. Rodgers' path, it has not been the hardest one, and San Francisco beat him with Cap and then with Alex Smith.
What about
and
then with Jimmy G?
Well, Jimmy G beat him.
Yeah, that exactly. And so, but go ahead. You were trying to ask.
No, the question I have, I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
He would be the 3rd quarterback to win with multiple teams. Brady, obviously,
and
Peyton. What would happen to his legacy if he got there and didn't win, like Kurt Warner with the Cardinals? Do you
I think it's helpful.
Boost him up?
It's helpful.
I think it's absolutely. I think the only thing that, as far as, I think there's only 2 things that could ding Rodgers with this Jets tenure. One is if it's an unmitigated disaster.
That would hurt.
If it just goes.
Really? Do you think?
I don't think he moves
it would
backwards, but I just think.
No, it would just be like he's washed. He's 40 years old.
He's 40 years old and he's washed.
That would be bad.
But I think worse maybe, honestly, than it being a disaster, is if it goes great. Better than I thought. Even better maybe than you think. They look awesome. And then in the conference title game, he falls flat. Because Brew's been hitting on this for a couple years, that Rodgers' numbers in every scenario of his career except for conference championship weekend look like one thing. And then conference championship, and his one victory came in a game where Cutler got hurt and Caleb Haney had to come in. That's the one where it'd be like, oh boy.
No, that would hurt. That's a great point. Like, they're looking great, they're rolling, they get to the AFC title game, and he throws 3
dust
picks.
Them. Yeah,
the Arrowhead would be better if he didn't make
or
the playoffs.
The Ravens done.
No,
if it went 10-7 and somehow we're out of the playoffs.
You know what? I kind of think that would be better.
I don't think it would be better. What I think is that if you were trying to craft an anti-Aaron Rodgers, if it was high school debate, and it's like you drew the anti-Aaron Rodgers argument.
Or professional sports television.
No, I understand, but if you were doing that and you were like, what would be the perfect crescendo to my see the guy doesn't have it argument, it would be more that than he goes to the Jets and they're just mediocre. It would be more, they look awesome, everything's going great.
I think he'd get more criticism in your scenario.
Yes, I think he would get more criticism.
Okay. Jets host the Bills week 1. They're winning on the vibes contest.
Yeah, they are.
Realistic Super Bowl contenders?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, look, right now we know everything's in pencil right now.
Yeah.
Right? But I've got them as the wild card in the AFC. And once you get into the tournament, especially with a quarterback like Rodgers,
was that good or bad?
You got a shot.
What?
You got a shot. Now, we just talked about his problems in conference championship games.
Yeah.
And I've, like Nick said, I beat that drum. Here's the main thing. In 5 conference championship games, which he's 1-4 in, He's got 9 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
For a guy who never throws.
Right. That's the thing. It's not like, oh, he usually throws a lot. No, that makes you feel like, is he melting down a little bit? Is the stage too big for him or something like that? So I think that I hear you on that, but I think their ceiling this year is the conference championship game. And because of his history, I'm not saying he's going to fold like a chair if they get there, but I don't think he'll win it. So I think their ceiling, I'll say they're a contender if you get to the conference championship. But I think that's the furthest they would go.
I just don't think they're going to be great at anything on offense. I just don't. And I want to make my Garrett Wilson opinion very clear here. And I know we're going to talk more about Garrett in a moment. It's less about Garrett Wilson, and it's more about what it takes to be a great wide receiver if we are in the greatest era ever for wide receivers. The NFL's top 100 is being unveiled throughout the last few weeks. There are 16 wide receivers on it. We have I went through the names, and so it just Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Smith. That doesn't include DK Metcalf, who all of us think is excellent. Doesn't include T. Higgins, who we think might get $25 million a year in free agency. Doesn't include Amari Cooper, who was a number 1 receiver at a high level. Now we're up to 20-plus guys. So the point that I'm trying to make on the Garrett Wilson stuff is very simple. Garrett Wilson might be an average number 1 receiver. You understand what I mean? Like if he's,
I'm just saying, watching him, I don't feel that way, but I hear what you're saying.
You can be excellent. Terry McLaurin. Everybody knows Terry McLaurin's really good. He had the same numbers as Garrett Wilson last year, also with bad quarterback play. But what it takes to have your receivers be your strength, the degree of difficulty for that is way higher right now than it was in years past. So I think they're going to have an average receiving core. I think Rodgers at this point is just an above-average quarterback. I don't know what they're going to get out of their running game. I did see Mekhi Becton, their offensive lineman, limp off the field last night again. I feel terribly for that guy whose body's betraying him. I just don't see their path to being excellent at anything on offense. And I can't remember the last Super Bowl team that wasn't excellent at something offensively.
The path is obvious. It's if Aaron Rodgers is not done, and if he's 85% of what he was 2 years ago, and Garrett Wilson, look, Nick, the numbers for him, and I know the numbers aren't like eye-popping compared to the top receivers.
But it's because he had terrible quarterbacks.
Right.
I get that.
He had abysmal quarterback play. And Aaron Rodgers does not benefit one iota by coming out and saying, and I know we're getting to the next topic, that reminds him of Devontae Adams. It doesn't benefit him at all because if Garrett Wilson is really that good and he can't link up with him regularly and score a bunch of touchdowns, then that shines a bad light on Rodgers. So I think he's legit, and I think they can have a great passing.
Okay, you know what? We're not going to talk about it because we went too long.
Oh, okay. So
I got plenty to say on
you
that.
guys trying to host the show.
I like the comparison.
Stop teasing the stuff. Dak says it's Super Bowl or bust next.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.